Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of On Seattle Time. As you may have noticed, this is a video episode. We might be shifting to video episodes from now on, but don't quote me on that because it really depends on how much of a pain in the ass it is for future Jenn to edit this video. But I keep hearing from Spotify that everyone wants video podcasts, and it didn't seem that difficult to make, so I figured why not give it a shot. Today's episode is about a topic that my non-engineer friends are always baffled by whenever I tell them that this is a part of my job. And I feel like it's a controversial topic overall, even if you're in tech, because some companies have this and some don't. And yeah, if you haven't guessed already by the title, we'll be talking about going on call and on-call responsibilities, overall Q&A about being an on-call engineer. I feel like my non-tech friends are somewhat obsessed with this idea of on-call. Like, they love watching Instagram reels about like a day in the life of a tech person on call. And I feel like this fascination comes from the fact that it's so crazy. Because you think about people that have to go on call, and one, it's like healthcare professionals. Usually it's a life or death situation that someone gets paged in the middle of the night and they have to start working immediately. Usually in tech, it's not life or death like this. And kind of digging into is this even healthy for people to have to go to work on a whim like this in the middle of the night? So first of all, before we dive too deeply into the topic, what is on call? Let's answer this question for my non-tech folk that might be listening to this podcast. So basically, on call is a shared responsibility that you have with your teammates around maintaining uptime and dealing with bugs, dealing with urgent issues surrounding the pieces of code that you own. So in practice, this is basically taking a week from your actual project work to hold the pager in case anything goes wrong, any alerts come up, any incidents come up. Once you get paged, which is usually through your phone, since no one has actual pagers anymore, but once you get paged and called into an incident, you just have to respond immediately and hop in the Slack channel, figure out what's going on, and try to fix the bug. And if that sounds stressful, it is, because you could get paged for literally anything. It's unpredictable. You won't know until you actually get there, and you're like, oh, I actually have no idea how to solve this. So it can definitely be intimidating for new engineers. And then during the workday, if you're not getting paged, you're usually solving some tickets, solving some bugs, or you're answering questions on Slack from other teams. At least that's what on-call looks like for my company and where I work. I actually just finished my last ever on-call rotation last Friday, which I am ecstatic about. I'm stoked to be off call for that team because it was crazy. I feel like every week that I was on call, I would get paged at least 2 to 3 times a day, average. And these pages would all happen between the hours of like 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Last Friday, I remember I was in bed, all cozy, literally dreaming like the best dream ever. Like, I just remember this dream being fantastic. And then at 1 a.m., I get woken up by the pager duty alert on my phone. And it's just the nastiest sound ever. Like, I didn't bother sending my alert to something nice because I was like, I'm not going to wake up. So it was just the nastiest alarm sound ever that still gives me nightmares to this day. So that goes off, and I have to go grab my phone across the room, acknowledge the incident, and then immediately open my computer at like 1 a.m. in the morning. And mind you, my eyes haven't even shifted yet. Like, it's still in night mode. And so I like open my laptop and this blue light just comes flooding my eyeballs. And it's like the worst experience ever because I'm still half awake, still in my dream state. I'm going to the incidents webpage to see what other incidents are going on right now, trying to like make sense of this alert. Sadly, there were no incidents going on at the moment. So I was like, shit, this means something probably actually did break. So I hop over to the channel. I'm like, what is up? What's going on here? And I discover that it's a false alarm. It was really just one person complaining about their experience and how the load time was really slow. And I'm just like, okay, there's really nothing I can do about that at this hour where I'm still in a half groggy state. I'm not even completely sure this should have been an incident. I say my whole spiel on the Slack channel about why I don't think it's that serious and what we can do in the morning. And then I go back to bed. But of course, it's so hard to sleep again because the whole time I'm thinking about whether or not the page is going to go off again, whether I'll hear that like terrible alarm alert sound again. And so I lie awake for like another 3 hours trying to process what just happened. And by the morning, I'm so groggy because I haven't slept. It's really hard to do the rest of the job. And yeah, that is like typical day on call, except that's probably an easier version because there is nothing to do during that page. So yeah, there are several instances of situations like that happening throughout the week. And of course, if it's not a false alarm, you have to actually find the fix, make the fix, deploy the fix, and then write some sort of report on the incident where we talk about the impact, what we could have done to make sure this doesn't happen again in the future. Overall, the on-call experience on that team was getting so brutal because we were also low on engineers, so it was happening like once every 6 weeks. So every 6 weeks you had to go on call for 1 week, which I feel like is a really bad ratio compared to some other teams. And yeah, it was like impossible to get project work done. And like every time you were on call, it would kind of mess up your sleep schedule, mess up your life in some sort of way. I no longer have to go on call for that team. And I'll tell you guys more about that at the end of the episode. But I feel like I got out of it in the most insane way possible. Oh, what's that? That sounds like we have a call coming in. All right, we have a caller on line 1. Caller 1, what is your question?
Hi, on Seattle Time listeners. My question is, given that you are always available for a ping or a page, are you paid extra while you're on call? Is it like overtime for other jobs? Or is it sort of built into the job description?
Oh my God, I love this question. The answer is no. We do not get a bonus for going on call at my company, at least. But I do know that around tech companies, some places like Google do give you a bonus for going on call. Like your standard engineer does not have to do this responsibility. But if someone does want to step up and take it on, then they get a bonus, then they get compensated for that extra job. As for whether going on call was in my job description, I will have to say no. I feel like I didn't really know that this was a thing until I got to the job and got to know the team. And I was like, oh shoot, you guys want me to go on call and I'm expected to be on it in like 3 months from now. And yeah, I feel like it was a surprise. Like when you're applying to jobs, they're certainly not including on call in that job description. Do wish that it was optional because I feel like that changes perception when on call is optional and you get a bonus, because then it's like you're being rewarded for your extra time and work and it's not something you're forced to do. In fact, you can be more of like a hero for taking it on when no one else wants to and get paid for it. And also I hear that at these companies that offer this system, it's more often than not that someone does take that bonus and goes on call than doesn't. Like more people just want the bonus and they do end up with a pretty hefty on-call staff. But instead of the resentment that some engineers can feel when you don't get a bonus, you are forced to do it. Instead, they feel more of like a reward, like I'm taking this on to help out my team. So definitely feel like that is a great alternative and a way that tech companies approach this responsibility that can be beneficial for the engineer. Oh my God, we're getting another question. Caller 2, what is your question?
I'm curious about how you deal with incidents or, bugs and stuff like that you don't know how to manage on your own or you don't know how to solve on your own. Like, who do you reach out to? How do you deal with that stress? Because at least to me, that sounds like it would be a super stressful situation.
You're so right in that it's a super stressful situation whenever that happens. But I feel like it's never totally on you. is what I've gleaned through my past experiences being on call. Like, sure, you are the one getting paged and you're the one in the channel, like representing your team and trying to figure it out. But that doesn't mean that people aren't constantly helping you out, even asynchronously. Like, it's good to remember that we're all in the incident channel to solve this problem together. It's not really a test for you to see if you can solve it, but more like, can we collaborate and solve this together? So my approach lately for getting paged into something like this, where I don't know what's going on, is to one, just start asking a shit ton of questions. Like, I'll join the channel, be like, hey, I'm here, I'm representing X team, and just ask so many questions about what's going on. Because yeah, you just got here, like, you should have questions. Ask those questions, and then people can answer, and then maybe those questions will also lead to clarity and something that we as a collective have missed. Other things that are great is that your team should have some sort of run book or document that states like, hey, if you get this alert that looks like a 500 and has this error message, and here are the steps that you should take to solve it. Because chances are someone has gone through that exact same page and that exact same error before, and they know how to solve it, and hopefully they've written it down for you and left you breadcrumbs so that you know what to do too. I mean, the amount of times I've solved something myself, probably like 0 or like 1% of the time. More often than not, it's through communication and working with others, and if I'm lucky, someone else from my team jumping into the channel to help. Also, high key, with LLMs now, I feel like it's so much easier, because if you don't know what to do, I just be asking Gemini. Gemini will actually come up with some pretty good suggestions, especially if you give it like all the logs, because you'll get like a lot of logs around the error message that honestly a human cannot parse themselves. Like, there's too much information there. But you can copy and paste it, put it into Gemini, and they'll be like, hey, this looks a little off, like maybe you could investigate that. And yeah, they'll come up with some great suggestions. But I totally relate to this question, because I feel like on call is so painful for me, not even because of the reality of what I have to do, but more because of the emotional spiral that I experience. Like, I just feel so incompetent sometimes when I go into the channel and I'm like, I actually have no idea what's going on here. I have no chance of even solving this or going somewhere. And yeah, just feeling incompetent and having that be like a public channel and having people like see you be incompetent is a whole other thing, and a whole emotional spiral that I think if you do have to go on call, you have to eventually just get over to make it less miserable for yourself. Okay, it looks like we have another caller. Keep it coming with the questions, guys. But yeah, caller 3, what is your question?
Hi, Jen. I'm curious, do you think certain personalities are better suited for on call?
My psychology brain that loves categorizing people absolutely loves this question, because it's something I've been thinking about a lot. And throughout my experience on call, I've realized that I am not that personality that is well suited for on call. But I can totally see certain personalities that would love on call. And I think on call is almost even built for them. And these archetypes are: one, night owls. I feel like all the pages come at night for some reason. They're all coming in at night. So I feel like if your biological circadian rhythm is more well suited to be in focus, you can think at night, then this could be great for you. I think another archetype that thrives in this role is the detail-oriented, forensics-loving detective persona. People that notice small details, because a lot of it is noticing small details in the logs, noticing something that's off. And a lot of it is also detective work, because you're basically given the evidence, which is that this thing broke. You have to look at, when did it break? Maybe go in deep and see like who committed code during this time that broke it. And yeah, just try to figure things out. And people that are good at detective work, good at noticing these small details, feel like you would be great at this. Sadly, not me. I'm very much a big picture, collaboration, connect the dots type girl. I'm not a small details girl. And that's something I discovered about myself during my time on call and honestly working in tech. Moving on, I think you would also thrive on call if you are really good at hyper fixating on a problem. Like, for example, you're given a problem and you could spend hours on it and just totally ignoring the rest of the world. Like, the only thing that exists is this problem. You're totally in flow state and you just become addicted. Because I feel like that's what on call demands. It's basically interrupting the rest of your life to be like, hey, come solve this problem, come look at this issue, and don't leave until you've solved it. So if you're comfortable with that and you're like, ooh, yeah, let me take this on and not leave my computer until I solve it, on call could be good for you. I don't know many people like this personally, but I'm sure they exist given that we work in tech, and the whole stereotype of tech is like people that get so hyper fixated on something that they forget to shower. So I'm sure these people exist. Sadly, not me. I am a very structured girl who appreciates having schedules that do not get interrupted. Like, I need to wake up in the morning, go to the gym, get my breakfast before I even have hope of focusing at my desk and getting something done. Very type A, very routine loving. So if you're like that, then know that on call will not be for you. Ooh, another archetype that could thrive is if you want to be like a hero. This goes back to a healthcare thing, which is like you're really only good at being a surgeon in the surgical room if you respond well under pressure and under short time constraints. Because that's essentially what it is. It's like kind of like you're in the surgical room because there's an emergency, or you're in the ER because there's an emergency and you just have to fix it. And you can't get too up in your head into being like, oh my God, what if I can't fix it? What if this? What if that? You just can't do that. You need to respond well under pressure. So if you have one of those types of personalities where you're really good at that and you like to be a hero, because surgeons are heroes, emergency room people are heroes. I feel like you can definitely be an on-call hero for your team if you're constantly clearing the tickets every week. Every week there's like an empty ticket board. If every page you resolve phenomenally fast, that definitely gets recognized because all of that is public on Slack, and your team will probably talk about it, praise you, just be like, hey, this was like a really great fix. This is a great opportunity to shine if you have that type of personality, have that type of archetype. Great place to shine, great place, great spotlight, great visibility, amazing. So I can definitely see some engineers who have that personality genuinely love being on call because it's their time to shine and contribute to the team. That being said, I think if you land into a role with on call and you're not one of those archetypes that are well suited for being on call, in fact, you're like me and are very type A, routine, loving, circadian rhythm, optimizing, just like kind of like a sensitive person overall, I don't think being on call is for you, and it can drastically affect your mental health and overall nervous system. I like firmly believe in healthy circadian rhythms and the value of sleep, the value of keeping a routine, and I feel like on-call responsibilities totally throw that out the window, which can then have a waterfall cascading effect on the rest of your life and how you show up during the day, how well you feel, and just how emotionally okay you are during the day and during the whole week. It's just such an aggressive takeover of work-life balance that at the end of the day, it's kind of appalling to me. It's kind of appalling to me that we have to do this outside of work hours over the middle of the night on weekends too. Just crazy. And oh my God, if you have anxiety, I'm telling you right now, like, get out of that on-call job because it is not for you at all. The paging sound itself is enough to cause like panic attacks. So don't even, I'm telling you right now, get out of there. But of course, like, I understand why companies have to have this if they value uptime or if they're doing something that like really cannot go down at any hour of the day. But we also have to accept that this system is totally misaligned for some people, some personality traits, some people's brains. Like, they literally just cannot take it. But at the end of the day, on-call culture is drastically different company to company. And just because you're in tech does not mean you have to go on call in this exact system. I know there are plenty of companies, lots of my friends throughout Seattle, they'll have on call on their teams, but it'll be in a less extreme way. For example, they don't have to do it on the weekends. They don't have to do it outside working hours. They're only on call on the pager from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, which I think is perfectly reasonable because that's during working hours. Some other teams might even have shorter rotations, like they only go on call for 1 or 2 days at a time. Don't really know how that pans out at the end, but that also makes sense. Maybe if you have like a larger team, like a team of like 48 people, or if your whole org is on call, then that's like a great way to do it too. Other options are like the Google model that I described previously, which is giving people the option to go on call if they want to, so that people with like kids and like other reasons why they don't want to go on call don't have to do it at the end of the day. Or better yet, a lot of companies don't have on call because they have dedicated site reliability engineers to do that job. Because technically it's not really in the job description for a developer. Like our job is to build things. And I think that's a lot of the marketing around engineering and developing is that, hey, you get to build something new for the company. My company doesn't have separate SREs or like tech ops because they have like a you build it, you maintain it philosophy, so that we're more mindful around building something good and something reliable, because at the end of the day, we'll have to be the ones to maintain it on call. Interesting philosophy. I'm sure it has its pros, but I think there are definitely less extreme ways we could have on call while still building that you build it, you maintain it model. Even just having engineers in Asia who are awake when we're asleep take the night shift, even that could be such a healthier model than what we have now, which is you have to be available 24/7. But yeah, overall, it's not mandatory in tech as a whole, which is kind of the note that I wanted to end on, is this like free market note, and something I've realized myself over my time going on call as an engineer is that at the end of the day, no one can make you do something. And if you realize that being on call is really stressful for you, really bad for your mental health, kind of like how it is for me, then at the end of the day, it still is a free market, and you can obviously just go somewhere else or find a team that doesn't have as extreme of an on-call. At the end of the day, you have your own agency to leave. And I'm sure it's not as easy as I'm saying, especially with the current job market. Everyone is job hugging. People are even job kissing. People are like so tightly tied to their jobs because we're so afraid that it's just going to slip out of our hands, that I feel like we're accepting way too much. Like we're accepting way less than we deserve, and we have to deal with stuff like this. And I think oftentimes we forget that if something is disrupting your work-life balance and your sleep and the rest of your life in a way that is just totally unacceptable to you, that you can leave. You can leave that job, you can leave that relationship, you can leave things that don't align with you. It's really interesting because I think a lot of us romanticize the suffering a little at work. I know when a lot of new grads joined the company for the first time, a big topic of conversation was around how bad the on-call rotation on our respective teams were. And it almost seemed like a competition to be like, oh, mine is so bad. We get 5 pages a day. And then someone else will be like, no, mine is worse. We can get like 1,000. Like I was just on a call for 2 hours resolving a page. And it's almost like this romanticization of suffering, how much we're devoting to our work, how like, oh, I'm such an important player on my team that look at me, like I have to go and do this and just spend all this time fixing this for my team. And sure, I get that to some extent. Like we all want to deliver for our teams. We all want to be somewhat useful, but could also think about whether or not it's too disruptive for our life and whether it really matches the life that we want for ourselves and our career at the end of the day? Is being an on-call hero and being available within the drop of a hat, is that really worth other things that you could be achieving and maybe have the energy to in the rest of your life if you didn't have to go on call in the first place? As I said before, I no longer have to go on call for my old team. I do kind of have to go on call, but it's much, much, much lighter now. I'm not worried about it. And it happened in the craziest way, guys. Basically, on my old team that had the terrible on call, it was getting to a point where I realized to myself that I couldn't do it anymore and that I would take the steps to leave either that team or that company. I had decided that for myself, that it just wasn't worth the trade-off anymore. Then, literally magically out of the blue one day, like 2 days after I decided this for myself, my manager springs this meeting on my calendar, and it's kind of like a surprise meeting. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? Like, what's so urgent that we have to talk about? And he's basically like, hey, you have the opportunity to switch teams right now if you want, to this totally new team doing something totally different. They're new and you can join them and just like move your project over there. And I was so happy. And of course I was like, yes, I will take it. And I realized that the new team, because their systems are so new and they really don't have like a lot of legacy stuff, it's more focused on building, their on-call rotation is super, super, super light. And maybe that'll change in the future, but for now it's really light, and it's really what I need to get my mental health and life back together, pursue some other things outside of work hours that I wasn't really able to do based off of how disruptive on-call was on my last team. I'm so grateful that this opportunity came up, and feels like the universe literally rescued me out of my terrible on-call situation. So yeah, that is my story and my experience with being on call. I'm so curious if you're an on-call engineer, what your experience has been. And I know I've tried to be fairly neutral, but I know that has not succeeded, and I probably came off a bit negative around the idea of going on call in general. So yeah, comment below if you want to share your story. And thank you, listeners, once again for listening to another episode of On Seattle Time. I hope this episode was enjoyable. It's a new format, so hope you guys like it. And yeah, if you do, make sure to like, subscribe, follow, rate this podcast 5 stars. That is probably like the best thing you could do, is rate it 5 stars. It takes like 1 second on Spotify. But yeah, I will see you guys next week.